What is up, everybody? What is up? How's it going? How's it going? There's the delay back at us. There's the delay back at us. We are brought to you live here tonight by ReleafMed.com, Louisiana's #1 all natural pain relief headquarters. We're talking legal Louisiana. We're talking the leading medical marijuana frontier here at ReleafMed.com. Our partners in crime, our partners in dropping the dime here about LSU, about what's going on here in the transfer portal. We're going to talk a lot about recruiting. We're going to talk definitely a lot of shuffling, a lot of things up in the air at LSU right now. A lot of questions being asked. Who's going to stay? Who's going to go? But not just on the staff but also the roster. And there's a lot going on. And we're going to kind of go through all the information we've got, all the people we've talked to, and kind of anything that's on the record that's permitted to discuss. We will discuss that, including who's coming, who's going, who's going to not be a part of LSU staff anymore, and who's going to stay. All of that we're going to be going through and discussing all that. I'm trying to send this all over the place real quick, so feel free to send in your questions or anything you have to say. Your comments, we'll go through all of those. Once again, this is LSUODYSSEY.com. Who's staying and who's going? We're going to talk about everything to do with LSU's transfer portal. But first, LSU got a huge commitment that we had predicted probably about 2-3 weeks ago, probably like 3 weeks, maybe even 4 weeks ago, with Keylan Moses, UI linebacker, committing as part of LSU's 2025 class. And to not only just be like a typical commitment, a big time hometown guy, you want to keep on all that's good. But Keylan Moses committed to be like the guy, the number 7, the ringleader of that 2025 class that might just feature the #1 receiver in America with DeCorian Moore, the #1 running back in America with Harlem Berry, and quite possibly, as we have predicted as well in that subscriber-only content from 4 weeks ago, that Colin Underwood will be the quarterback for that class. So we're predicting that class is going to all come together with #1s all over the place. DeCorian Moore, wherever he's ranked right now, forget about it. That dude is the #1 receiver of that class. I think someone like Taz Williams Jr., you could put #2, absolute freak show from Red Oak High, really taking that next level. But that class has everything to be special. But 2024 is really a very pressing need for LSU right now, because LSU are going into year 3 with Brian Kelly. And there's hints that we're strong indications that we're keeping Matt House, and we're going to continue with much of the same staff. People were expecting wide, broad, sweeping staff changes. We haven't seen anything like that. We haven't heard any news of people leaving or people shopping around for other jobs. Any of the typical indications that are like, hey, that guy's about to go. We're not seeing much of that at all. What I know for sure is that defensive line coach Jimmy Lindsey is all but returning. Not only are you seeing him recruiting guys, you're seeing him recruiting guys who misunderstood his recruitment as an actual official offer and then go and tweet that out. You're seeing him, tagged in Sean Washington's his announcement, the JUCO lineman LSU have been looking for quite a while. This guy, Sean Washington, one-time Georgia commit and Georgia player, I believe won a national championship at Georgia as well, and then goes to JUCO, and now finds his way back home. New Orleans native, John Ehret High Marrero guy, comes back home to LSU, Louisiana, and he's going to be rocking the purple and gold. Sean Washington is another huge pickup. But really, Keylan Moses going forward, what a pickup this guy is. I mean, an absolute freak. He can do it all at linebacker. And, the thing about him that really makes me really get excited about his commitment and really excited about what he can do is he just seems like a total dog. Like a guy who on every play is going to go out there and just put it all on the line. And it sucks. University Lab lost by 3 points to St. Charles last night. Go down in a close game. And I wonder how many tackles Keylan Moses had in that game, because I don't know if you watched the live feed on YouTube. I know. We watched the live feed, huh? It seemed like Keylan Moses had about 15 tackles in that game. I don't know how many he did have, but it was ridiculous how many he had. He's a huge key part of this 2025 class and this recruiting revolution. But LSU needs some help with 2024 right the hell now. We need guys, we need dogs right now in the 2024 class. And LSU are going a long way to doing that by having Gabe Relaford, big-time defensive lineman. He went out of his way to say, I'm not a DT. That guy's a defensive end, but also he can play multiple techniques along the defensive line. So I just call him a defensive lineman. Gabriel Relaford, huge target for LSU. Huge need for this team and this program. LSU not only needs to get the best defensive lineman in the country, best defensive lineman out of our own state, LSU absolutely must just start stacking defensive line talent in mass regardless. Look at what happened on this defensive line this last season. That can't happen again. This is LSU football. If this continues, this streak of just soft-ass, whoopee cushion, cool whip, just embarrassing defense, our program and the way we're able to actually recruit guys on the defensive side of the ball, that changes forever. 1 second. We've got a comment from Jamie. Hey, Lon, bring it on as only you know how. Yes, indeed, Jamie. And look who we got with us. I was hoping he could chill for a while, but he made quick work of his yogurt, his eggs, his little munchies that he's got. Oh, and here's the mail. 1 second. We've got some Amazon package on our desk. I mean, on our front porch. Okay, thank you. Good Lord. It's all happening right now. Holy shit. What's next? Come on, buddy. Crazy. Let me wash his hands real quick. Sorry, everybody. See your other hand. All right, good. You take that. Here, buddy. And LSU are gonna. I'm really excited about the fact that we have Gabe Relaford coming to campus this weekend. What does that tell you? What does that tell you if Gabe Relaford is coming to campus this weekend? What does that tell you if all these other guys are being, talked about, as targets for LSU, or Sean Washington committing to the Tigers? What does that tell you? That tells you, well, at least it tells me, that LSU already have their next defensive line coach in place. Okay? That's what that tells me, is LSU already have their next defensive line coach in place. So, wild guess, I don't think so. I believe Jimmy Lindsey will be that man. I cannot see Brian Kelly having made the Jimmy Lindsey hire back in July only to be like, okay, you had this terrible heart attack or emergency, whatever it was, happened to you, and you couldn't coach for the whole season, and now we're just going to get rid of you. Does that sound like something that Brian Kelly would do? Hire someone he believed in and then just get rid of him without giving him an opportunity to even coach? That doesn't really seem like something Brian Kelly would be doing. So with everything we're seeing on the recruiting trail, his discussions one-on-one with players, hoping to get them to come back next year, Mason Smith, Mekhi Wingo, Braden Swinson, you know, I don't know how you could not believe, feel, or see the indications that Jimmy Lindsey is going to be the defensive line coach for this 2024 squad by all but everything I'm seeing, unless, you know, he's recruiting for a team that he will no longer be a part of in a few weeks. I mean, that just doesn't really make sense to me why Brian Kelly would also want to go hire another coach as well. See what I'm saying? Like, so Brian Kelly would have to get rid of a guy because he had a health emergency, even though he hired him to be the defensive line dude, and then just get rid of him because he had a health emergency, even though he's healthy and back and ready to coach. That doesn't really seem like something Brian Kelly would be doing. Seems like Brian Kelly would be like, all right, now you have a chance to coach. Let's let you do that, because that's what we need badly is defensive line coaching, and Jimmy Lindsey can provide that. I like what I've seen from Jimmy Lindsey, especially when you're talking about the way he can carve relationships with these players, what he can absolutely maximize out of them from, you know, the sideline, the practice room, the meeting room. The practice field, the meeting room to the football field. He's been able to get guys to really rise out of a very limited skill set at a place like South Carolina and be absolute dogs. So I'm just saying that I think with the talent LSU has on tap, Jimmy Lindsey is going to be like a kid in a candy store. I feel good about where Lindsey stands, because here's the thing. If you can attract the talent to LSU, which Jimmy Lindsey has a good proven recruiting record, even though he's been at places where you're not really going to get 5-star after 5-star after 5-star or be able to pull them in. So it's kind of hard to be like, hey, I'm going to punish you for not bringing Mason Smith and BJ Ojolari and all these guys to South Carolina. No, that kind of doesn't really make sense to me. But what he's done at a school like South Carolina that has kind of a limited pull has been astronomical. So you put him in Louisiana at LSU, I think we're going to have a good defensive line future. Yes. You agree, Seiji? You agree? I think you do. But, you know, as far as who's staying, I think what's really big news for LSU is going to be in those trenches. That's where LSU's coaching staff are really focusing big time on this last week, or I should say have focused this last week, was on making sure they keep as many of these veterans in the trenches as possible. And if you read our article that is on LSUODYSSEY.com right now for subscribers only, who will stay and who will go, very aptly titled, very kind of just straightforward, we go through and say kind of here's who we think are going to go to the NFL draft. Here's the guys who've already transferred, you know, Armani Goodwin, LT Welch, Corin Norman. But there are some big time pieces to this team that if LSU are able to get to come back for one more go round, LSU might be able to compete for a national championship, compete for the SEC, all those goals with Garrett Nussmeier. Especially with a great offensive line able to really protect him, help him, help him to hit the ground running at quarterback. You know, it's not going to be, I guarantee the first few games with Garrett Nussmeier and Mike Denbrock together next year, if Nussmeier is the starter, I bet they won't like unleash Garrett Nussmeier. I bet it'll be pretty conservative offensive football, football calling from Mike Denbrock. Only a few games in, once they really kind of get the trust of Nussmeier full on to just really throw the ball all over the place, then and only then will you probably start seeing that happen. But that also means that we're going to start having to trust somebody at receiver to try and follow somehow in the footsteps of what Malik Nabers and Brian Thomas Jr. just perpetrated upon SEC defenders this last season, because it was off the hook. It was insane. What those two guys did, 29 combined touchdowns. 29 combined touchdowns from the pair. I mean, they have made the Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase record from 2019 not only have a very recent peer, but they've even topped that partnership in one category after another. It is stunning what those two have done. And so at receiver, LSU, how big would it be for this program, for this team going into next season with a guy who can throw the ball like Garrett Nussmeier, and an offensive line where most of these guys are coming back, most of the starters are coming back? How big of a deal would it be to get Brian Thomas Jr. to return for next season? How big would that be? This guy right now is projected as a late first-round draft pick. In most of the mock drafts I'm looking at, from the guys who've got good track records, are usually right on these things, know what they're talking about. They're projecting Brian Thomas Jr. to the Philadelphia Eagles in one of these drafts. So, we're talking about a Super Bowl contending franchise right now wanting him as a receiver, with Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown or whoever all that they've got over there for Philly. I mean, it's a ridiculous receiving core in Philadelphia. So Brian Thomas Jr. is projected right now, if he goes to the draft, leading the nation in touchdowns, Blitnikoff semifinalist, he's projected as a first-round pick. So, I mean, it's going to be very difficult for LSU to persuade him to come back for another season. This is the money year. This is the third year. He's fulfilled pretty much every goal he had for LSU all in one season, basically, even though you could argue last year, while getting the ball very little, he was also impressive. And you can argue as a freshman, scoring at Alabama, having another, I think, 3 touchdowns that season. He was also showing flashes too. So it's kind of interesting with Brian Thomas Jr., a guy who didn't get many opportunities until his junior year, but look what he did as a junior. I mean, if Brian Thomas Jr. comes back next year, he has a chance to maybe even top or tie Malik Nabers' records, because we're going to have to start calling them Malik Nabers records, because he's about to be not only number one receiver in receptions, as he's already displayed, but the number one receiver in total receiving yards, total career receiving yards, which I did not anticipate anyone breaking soon. 3,001 receiving yards is the total from Josh Reed from 2001, a year where, ding, 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 he won the Blitnikoff, became LSU's first Blitnikoff winner. Yes, I was excited about that as well. Josh Reed was one of my early LSU heroes. And then you've got Jamar Chase's single season records for receptions being just thrown into the dust by Malik Nabers. You've got Brian Thomas Jr. being the third all-time career single season touchdowns with 15, behind only Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase's records. And let's be real, let's be honest. Give Brian Thomas Jr. and Malik Nabers in 2023 15 games, 15 starts with Jaden Daniels, and even a defense that's just ranked maybe 90th instead of 110th. Here, I'll get your ball. Maybe they break those records with 21 touchdowns and 18 touchdowns from Chase and Jefferson, respectively. I wouldn't doubt that. The type of silly, ridiculous numbers they were putting up indicate that not only would that have occurred, they possibly would have broken those records as well. The fact that we have such a chrysalis, unbelievable, like majestic, but then yet ruthless medieval juggernaut offense of such quality that it literally pushes and nips at the heels of the 2019 offense in only just 4 years, and yet we lose 3 games. We don't compete for the SEC. We don't compete for a national championship. We probably play in like the Tax-Sack Slayer Bowl or whatever the hell it is. That is why this, retaining Matt House is one of it will be the riskiest move Brian Kelly has made yet so far. I mean, he could have kept Brian Polian, and it wouldn't be as risky as this. Let me get the little guy's ball. He's going after the ball. I see an accident about to occur. We're gonna thwart that. Oh, you're going for the DVDs. This little guy has single-handedly destroyed our DVD collection. So we have to get some new towers because he's just too crazy. You can't make it high enough to stop him. Here, buddy. Play over here. What's this? Oh, my God. What's this? Whoa. Sorry, buddy. Here's your ball. Sorry for that. Actually, no, I will not apologize for helping my son, for getting my son. No apology for that. You apologize to me, damn it. No. But the Matt House retention, is that only for recruiting purposes? Because here's what I'm going to tell you. If Keylan Moses tight with Matt House, not really. It's more about Frank Wilson, Jordan Arsamon, people like that, why he committed. If you say, the plan is that we're going to keep Matt House, and then you fire him very quickly after, maybe say by February, we fire Matt House before the season. What is that? What is that for? What is the delay? I mean, it's very interesting that there hasn't been a quick, swift movement. Matt House gone, certain members of the defensive staff gone. And that to me says like something about, hey, we've got relationships in place with certain recruits, and we have to make it happen. We have to cash that in right here, right now, this season, this recruiting cycle. And maybe just hope that some of these guys will understand why some of these dudes that they were, got comfortable with and wanted to recruit to play for, why they had to go. Hope and pray that their love for LSU in the end will somehow be enough, and that's why they'll commit. I think LSU, Brian Kelly has to be really careful here, very careful here, because it would be a lot smarter to cut the cord now and let the 2024 class not be as elite or as strong or as put together as maybe 2022 and 2021. And 2021 was not really that good of a class. 2022 was better. Kelly was able to seal some really strong players in the end during that transition to make sure that class was epic. Will Campbell was a 5-star. Walker Howard was a 5-star. Harold Perkins was a 5-star. And you know the names. Emory Jones Jr. as well. I mean, that guy should have been a 5-star. So that class had some weight to it, some definite heft to it. Mason Taylor, guys who started for LSU and have paid off for LSU. 2021, Brian Thomas Jr. and Malik Neighbors, Garrett Nussmeier, who's going to start at quarterback for you, all come from that class. So that class has paid off as well. If you go look at the 2021 class, you would agree with me, because even though I'm not mentioning everybody, it was quite a strong class, 2021, even though it had some misses to it that made it kind of a sour class in the end. But really, that class also paid off. But really, 2023, the failings of 2023 was LSU failed to really get the type of oomph, 2022 as well, star power oomph at corner that we needed. 2022 specifically being the main offender, 2021, 2020, all three of those classes really, really, really bad at corner. And it wasn't until 2023, this class with Javian Toviano, 5-star, being one of them signed, and now with this next class, Juwan Johnson, another 5-star signing on, a flip. Robert Steeples was actually able to get away from Deion Sanders. That's some recruiting class right there. You know, Steeples getting a flip from a 5-star who was committed to Colorado. Although, I mean, you know, how hard is it to keep a Louisiana guy in Louisiana? I guess maybe not that hard. You just have to actually recruit them. I don't know. Steeples made that flip happen. We got to give him that credit. And I hope that Steeples is one of them who stays on, because you and I know Robert Steeples isn't the one calling the soft coverage every play 15 yards off. He's a cornerbacks coach. He would have changed that up at some point. It wasn't working. You and I know Robert Steeples isn't the guy who kept certain guys at certain positions. He was switching guys nonstop. He was trying every combination he possibly could to see if it could work. I mean, you saw everyone from LT Welch, who's now transferred, to Ashton Stamps, to Deuce Chestnut, to, you know, J.K. Johnson. Oh, sorry, he never played. I meant Denver Harris. You saw so many different guys playing in those cornerback positions for LSU this last season. So you can't tell me a coach who's willing to try everything for every solution personnel-wise is the same coach who's going to just like be fine with a 15-yard off coverage. It doesn't really make sense to me. What I think is happening here is the personnel decisions go to Robert Steeples, and then the overall schematics of the defense from pass rush to coverage is all basically up to Matt House. And that's not only what I've been told by certain coaches, but that is what it's quite evident. You know, there's a pattern of not playing the right personnel, no matter whether they're a freshman or an old guy like Jordan Jefferson. You know, Jordan Jefferson was out playing Mason Smith for a lot of the season. And I know Mason Smith needed the reps to get his legs back. I understand that. He needed the reps to get kind of mentally back from that injury. It almost really just hasn't worked. It hasn't happened yet. And so for me, it's almost like you put in the guy who was second in tackles for loss, and you ride with him maybe. A guy who was getting absolute penetration from the interior. A guy who was just dominating and smashing centers and guards. Like, I mean, he was just embarrassing some of these guys, pushing them into the own backfield. And you barely saw him play until, you know, injuries and all this other stuff required it. And that's a pattern that we've seen from Matt House going back to last season with Harold Perkins. It was just straight up refusal to play the best player. It made no sense. It drove everyone nuts. And it wasn't just driving the fans nuts. It was driving everyone nuts, the players, his own teammates. Why isn't that dude playing? He's one of the best players we've got. Play him. Like, I mean, it was obvious. Because if you're one of those linebackers, like say Micah Baskerville, you're like, dude, if I got that guy, I'm lining up next to that dude, man, I'm gonna have a chance for a pick six, which Micah Baskerville had last year. You know, if you're Jay Ward, you're like, man, they can put me anywhere with a guy like Harold Perkins. They can put me at nickel, they can put me at strong safety, free safety, wherever they want me to. I can attack the quarterback on the other flank with Harold. You know, like they can do anything. And you saw that it wasn't until LSU got destroyed by Florida or sorry, not destroyed by Florida, destroyed by Tennessee at home, where Harold Perkins played only 6 snaps, that they finally went, okay, we got to play Harold. He only played like 30 something in the next game against Florida, but every single one of those snaps were game changing. And the chorus of play the dude every damn play, start him, was just so embarrassingly loud. He even had a forced fumble that Mekhi Wingo recovered that was taken off the board. Like, this guy, you had to play him. And Matt House was just, no, he's not ready yet. Too much too soon. I don't know what the hell's going on. But it's a pattern. Deshaun Womack played 2 defensive snaps, and he had a half of a sack. Half of a sack, half TFL. 2 pressures. 2 pressures in 2 defensive snaps. He's trying to imitate me or something. He's sick of me talking. Here, buddy. Let's put on one of your shows. It's just, I just wonder why we're keeping Matt House. I really just, like, if you give me a shot to interview Brian Kelly, which I have requested multiple times, and we'll get there at some point. Even though we have been able to ask him questions during press conferences, so we've been able to do that. But it would be great to get a one-on-one interview with Brian Kelly, and I would just ask him, just straight up, no political BS. Just tell me, please, why are you keeping a guy who basically has led 2 of the worst LSU defenses we've seen in a while? Like, why? Like, what's... Especially this 2023 defense. The 2022 defense just had moments where they were shockingly bad. But then for the most part, they really hung in there in the trenches and played a good season last year and helped Jaden Daniels out, made turnovers. For the most part, they were good. We'll say they were good. We'll give them, but they let 50-point games happen against Georgia, 40-point games to A&M and Tennessee, and just had moments where it was shocking. But 2023, this 2023 defense was nothing short of criminal. I mean, this wasn't just disgraceful. It was frightening in how bad it could be, the depths of how bad it could get. And you thought it couldn't get any worse. And then you see Texas A&M's 3rd-string quarterback, a guy who looked like he'd never thrown a 300-yard game in his life. The way he threw that football, it was like obvious this guy is not going to be able to throw the football against us, right? He's going to be running against us. Wrong. He was killing us on 3rd down, play after play after play. 9 third-down conversion completions against us. When you've got Georgia State putting up 365 total yards against your defense, and you're keeping a guy who refuses to play Deshaun Womack, Whit Weeks. I mean, you play Whit Weeks, you start him against Jalen Milroe in Alabama. I mean, it hurts. It hurts the mind to think of the possibilities, right? Just think about it right now. Jalen Milroe, it was too easy for him in that game. And LSU, Jaden Daniels, and Jalen Milroe and Alabama trading touchdowns clear into the start of the 4th quarter where Jaden Daniels gets knocked out. LSU were up 28-21 at one point, and had we been able to get one stop up 28-21, I am telling you, Jaden Daniels, Malik Neighbors, they were on something that night. Whether it was fairy dust, whatever they were made of on that night, whatever they were whatever they did that day to be in that type of, they were unbelievable. Malik Neighbors, 10 catches, 171 yards. Jaden Daniels threw only 219 yards, but he threw for 3 touchdown passes. And then he rushed for 163 yards on 11 carries against that defense, a top 10 defense when we played them. I'm sure they're still statistically in the top 25, top 15, whatever. They were top 10 when LSU lined up against them. Yes, you want Gatorade? But I'm telling you, Jaden Daniels stays in that game. We get one stop. LSU has a chance, more than a chance, to win that game. You like that? Here, buddy. You got a very runny nose. Let me get you. Let me see you. Sage, let me see you. Come here. Come here. Come here, Mr. Snotty. There we go. Oh, lordy, lordy, lordy. What are your comments? What are your thoughts on Matt House staying, certain coaches staying? We've revealed the name of one assistant coach that no one else has put in the news that we know will be staying. You've heard it speculated by Jordy Collada. You've heard it speculated by a lot of people. But it's the same feeling I'm getting. And it's the same feeling. We have a group on Twitter, a private group. And I told them all, like, what if we keep House? I'm starting to think we might. Because it was just, like, weird that it had been, like, 3 days. And it was like, this clock is moving. And if you were wanting any part of that and to, like, be, making sure that you are a part of this recruiting calendar and you want to get rid of this guy when you're supposed to fire him and you're supposed to move on with this, you're supposed to be here because signing day is coming up. That didn't seem to matter at all to Kelly the second the season ended. You thought it would. And he was like, nope, I'm on my own time. Basically, middle finger to the calendar. Like, I'm going to hire and fire when I feel the time is right, which is strange. Very strange to me. It's very intriguing as well because it's not common practice. Leonida Hughes says, "Hey Lon, what's up? What's up? Who is this? Is this someone related to Jeremiah Hughes? Is it Ionita? Am I saying that right? Or is it Leonida, like an undercase L? Because it's hard to tell from this. It looks like an undercase L, but I'm not so sure. Is it Ionita Hughes or Leonida Hughes? Either way, Leonida or Ionita, what is up? That's my government name. This is Nikki. Oh my God. Nikki Hughes. Jeremiah Hughes' mom. This is Jeremiah Hughes' mom. What is up? Lanita. There we go. Wow. That's so cool. I had no clue that was your real name. Wow. Nikki Hughes. I've been talking to them for quite a while. I really wish we've been able to meet at this Florida game this week. I mean, not this week. This last month. But there was a health emergency for my son, and basically the most ridiculous week you could ever imagine. Just like, this is surreal. This is terrible. Why is this happening? And he's so much better now, but it was just like all the plans, everything just fell to dust. I mean, like, I didn't even think of canceling my plane tickets. They just, my like, someone else took care of that for me while I was at the hospital because they knew, like, he's not going anywhere. Like, and it was terrible. It was terrible. And really hoping we are going to be able to pull off as many games as we can next year, because I am motivated as hell to really make sure we try and get there to every damn game. At least we were able to see Jaden Daniels in the flesh live, so we were able to do that. So I wouldn't feel as bad, but still, we would have been at the 600-yard game for Florida, and we would have been able to see all of you, especially you and the Hughes family, and see Jeremiah. And that's the thing is, yep, you're saying we've got next year, praying all is well. That's the thing is, next year is going to be very, very intriguing, very interesting. I mean, I would ask you as well, Nikki. I mean, it seems to me like House is going to stay. Is that what you're getting from Jeremiah, your interactions with your son is like, as for the future of the program is, the same guys who've been coaching and the same guys he's committed for, are they going to be in place? Because that's basically what I'm hearing, is that most of the staff is going to stay. But then again, I'm not as close to the program as you. She says, I don't ask. Wise. Well, I had to ask, because I was like, it just seems that way, and I wonder what you were thinking, wondering what you were hearing. Here, Sage, eat that. Sage, come here. This little madman loves these DVDs. He's always going after these DVDs. Here we go. So, yeah, I mean, LSU, you're going to see comings and goings, but it might not be the ones you were expecting. And with Coach Kelly and his doing it on his time kind of mentality, it might not be when you expect it. I mean, that's kind of been evident for quite some time with Kelly, is he barely does anything when we've expected it or when we've thought it was occurring. And they're very good at keeping the information out of the news, I should say. But that's why I kind of take pride in the fact that we've broken like 90% of the stories we've broken officially. We've officially been credited by national sources. We've done all that in the Kelly era, so that fills me with some pride that we've been able to break his Nixon-esque secrecy, his cabal of secrecy within LSU headquarters. We've been able to infiltrate. Oh. As for right now, though, it has been like pulling teeth to ascertain where LSU are going next, because there's a lot of fluidity here. There's a lot of chance. There's a big potential chance for. I mean, LSU could lose just off the top of my head right here. And I don't think we would lose all three of these guys. I actually think all three of these guys are going to return. But just off the top of my head, LSU could lose Mason Smith, Mekhi Wingo, and Braden Swinson all to the NFL draft right now. And that should really disturb you, because LSU are already short on the defensive line. We already need massive help up front. We already need to recruit our asses off to make sure that we can get the depth for that defensive line. And we've done some great work. Kalaj Cobbins, I love having him on this team. But missing Dominic McKinley, okay. But now you've got to go get Gabe Relaford. And big ups for getting Sean Washington. Now you want more Gatorade, huh? You're getting addicted to this Gatorade. I don't like it. Only a little. This little crazy man. And so, yes, LSU have added some focus, some additional pressure, push to retooling, revamping, and settling that defensive line for next season. Still, you have to make sure Mekhi Wingo comes back next season. You absolutely need that guy. I mean, he's played 2 seasons now for LSU where he's had a torn labrum in one season and played I think it was 10 straight games with that torn labrum. I believe it was the Mississippi State game when he tore that labrum. And instead, he played through that whole thing, required off-season surgery. This year, again, Mekhi Wingo has been playing with a groin injury. once again requiring off-season surgery and playing through, what was it, 6, 7, 8 games through this injury. So you've got a dude who's played 3 seasons now in college, eligible to go. He's played banged up and hurt for LSU. He has given he's well, how do we put this? He has paid his dues for LSU times 1,000. Like, that is a dude who owes LSU absolutely nothing. Like, not one more snap of his body to be put on the line for LSU. He owes LSU zilch. That goes for like every one of these players, really. But at the same time, like, when you talk about like, hey, you have something left to prove, Brian Thomas Jr., like, okay, that type of thing. Like, you want to be that number one guy, come back next year and prove it. Like, you can make that argument. Mekhi Wingo, man, I mean, he can literally just like get up and be like, no, dude, I've already given it for you. I've already balled out. You've got to have that type of respect going into talks with him to get him to come back next year, because this dude could go right now, and he's projected to be anywhere from the top 5 into the top 10 defensive linemen in the next draft, which would equal anywhere from early 2nd round to mid 4th round. You're talking millions, millions, and millions of dollars for signing on. And you know as well as I do, Mekhi Wingo is going to have a long, fruitful, healthy NFL career. And that's as long as he wants to play. I mean, this dude could do just about anything. So somebody you really want to keep on this team, a captain, a leader of this defense, someone who, when you missed him, you really missed him, just like Greg Brooks Jr. When Greg Brooks Jr. went down after that 2nd game with the brain tumor, I mean, you can't even quantify how badly LSU missed him, not only on the field, because he was absolutely bawling the F out in those first 2 games. He was the only defender besides Mekhi Wingo and Harold Perkins playing against Florida State with a pulse. And even Harold Perkins, you couldn't tell if he had a pulse or not, because House had him just stand there in the middle. Just stand there. You're the middle linebacker, so stand in the middle. Like, just some of this stuff is a little rudimentary and ridiculous. And you had only a few guys who are willing to say, I'm going to ball out no matter how bad this defense is, no matter what the score line is, no matter how crazy this shootout becomes. I'm going to make a play that's going to decide this damn game. Mekhi Wingo, one of those guys. You lost him to injury right before Alabama, before the biggest game of the year. Greg Brooks Jr., you lost him after Grambling. Only defender to play with a pulse against Florida State. You weren't just behind the 8 ball defensively before it began. You really lost some key pieces. Mason Smith was basically a non-participant this season. Yes, I know he had a few sacks. It doesn't matter. Basically a non-participant this season. And I know that injury he suffered and the recovery he's still going through with that injury, it's mental at this point. It is purely mental. He got injured on a play where he was doing nothing but jumping to celebrate for his teammate making a play. And he ruptured his ACL. I mean, like, that would mentally mess with you. It would make you hesitant. And I understand he's played a ton of snaps and he should have kind of crossed that barrier at some point, right? Become the old Mason Smith. But I think that's not really what's going to happen here. I think he's going to evolve into a different type of player potentially. And I think it might be a better Mason Smith than we've ever seen before. But I think that's the way forward for Mason Smith. I think he's got to refine his game. I think he's got to revamp his game. I think he's got to really pay attention to the smartest defensive line coaches he's trusted throughout his development, guys who've coached him back in high school at Terrebonne. And I think he needs to talk to those guys about where he's at. because there's never been a consistent defensive line coach for him to depend on and ask that question to at LSU. And that's why I think they need to keep a guy like Jimmy Lindsey. He's already been meeting with Mason Smith. He's already known Mason Smith for the last little bit since he was arrived, since he became the coach back in August, even before his injury. Or sorry, in June, I should say, when he was hired. They've had time together. He respects him. He gets with him. So I think, I don't know. I really want Mason Smith to show his best version of himself. I want him to feel no pressure, no mental weirdness when he's lining up, where like, oh God, I'm going to tear this ACL again, doing this or that. Oh, my knee's feeling weird. I just hope and pray he just kind of is cured of that and is just able to freely go out there and play. Whether he hurts his ankle, hurts his knee again, like whatever. This is football. If you want to keep playing, like that's going to be the reality of what's going to happen. But I would love to see him escape the injury cycle, which we've been able to do. He's played how many snaps this season? No more problems, no more bang-ups, no more little issues going on in his ankles or knee. He doesn't have anything like lingering like that. And so now it's mental, and now it's possible for him to get beyond this, become the best version of himself next year. There is absolutely no way he goes to the NFL draft. No way, unless he's being terribly ill-advised and someone just wants to make money off of him quick. He gets like a $3 million, $4 million signing bonus as like a 6th round pick, 7th round pick. Someone would take a chance on his athletic body because it is a once in a generation type of defensive lineman body when you combine it with that skill set that he has. But we haven't seen the full package since he's gotten hurt. And that's a shame because alongside Mekhi Wingo, and then you got Braden Swinson coming back next year, led the team in pressures. Unlucky to only have 2 sacks, but he had about like 15 holding penalties that went uncalled against him, like second in TFLs. This dude, second in pass breakups as well, Braden Swinson, 5 pass breakups. I think all 3 of them are going to come back together, form a power trio, and then you got Deshaun Womack, who just has to start playing games for LSU. Savion Jones, I think he needs to cut 5 to 10 pounds coming into next year, maybe even 15. I mean, that extra weight, 285, 280, whatever it was, that really hurt him this season. That cost him some sacks this year. That cost him big plays. And you can see it. I don't care what you say. If you really have been watching Savion Jones, if you really know how he plays football, you will see it. You can see it in that final stretch, right when he's got the quarterback dead to rights, or should. It looks like he's moving through just concrete. And it's a very subtle thing, but it's like, damn, how did he miss him? Or there's times the guy goes flying right past him through the holes. There's times that it is very strange why he's missing plays, and it's because of that lack of pace now. It's because he's slowed down by the added weight. I think them getting him to add weight was a very stupid move. I remember when he told me he was 280 in our exclusive interview before the season next year. I was like, whoa. And I privately said, like, bro, that's huge. Are you sure? Are you good? And it took until, the first few games to really see that, like, hey, this is slowing him down. This wasn't that good of an idea. Like, this takes away one of his best attributes, his speed. In combination with his movement, it's just he could become devastating off that line, off that edge. And was making plays back last year in really limited time. And he was doing the same. And when you should have done the same this year, really, because he had a lot of opportunities to make it happen. Led the team in pressures for much of the season. But whereas Braden Swinson was having, holding penalties that went uncalled against him, having, running into other players, just dumb things that cost him sacks. You saw Savion Jones just simply just not be able to make it because of that extra senseless weight. And once again, that goes down to coaching. That goes down to development. It goes down to strength and conditioning. Like, that's all a failure for Savion Jones. And this was his third season at LSU. This could have been his money year, I think that's a failure for LSU right there that they need to get right for next season. Like, that really, to me, that's something that must be rectified. Savion Jones should be an 8-9 sack type of guy, if not higher. And the fact that he had, like 2.5, not even his total last year, where he played like half the snaps that he did that defines what I'm talking about. They missed the mark there. Adding the weight did not make any sense. LSU actually could get Josh Williams back for another year. Charles Turner. Two guys who won the 2019 national championship with Joe Burrow, Justin Jefferson, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Jamar Chase and company. These guys are still two of the remaining dudes. Charles Turner got snaps that season. Josh Williams got snaps that season. Like, they didn't just stand there on the sidelines. They actually played for this team. Like, that's what people forget about the 2019 team, is a lot of guys got snaps that year because there were so many blowouts. So, a lot of future Tigers got playing time. It was a very strange team. And it's insane that there's still going to be a few guys on this next season's team. I'm telling you right now, almost everyone from this offensive line is returning, except for one or two who might be transferring. We're hearing whispers about Marlon Martinez entering the transfer portal, and he's a name that's one of a few that we have on our site right now, on our who's staying, who's going article. Who will stay and who will go, that article. It's right there on the homepage. We'll put the link to that. We basically list about 8 or 9 guys, 8 or 9 Tigers on the team who we say they're on the transfer portal watch list. Guys who I'm worried about transferring. Marlon Martinez is at the top of that list, so that should tell you why I'm worried, because I think he watched a lot of guys get the playing time he expected to get himself last year, and I think that's bummed him out, and I think that could force a move. I don't expect, he seems like he loves playing for LSU, but he's also a kid who's extremely talented, and he's running out of time. I mean, he's now played 4 seasons at LSU where he's basically barely played. So, I mean, you would be wrong to go after the kid for transferring, because it's I actually think it's crazy he didn't transfer last offseason. I think it showed a ton of commitment to the team, a ton of it just showed a lot of love for LSU, for Marlon Martinez, Garrett Nussmeier, guys like that, to not hit the portal. And I feel like that wasn't really rewarded for Marlon Martinez. I mean, let's look it up right now. I can prove it. Let's look up how many snaps he played this season. Sage, did you literally put that piece of bacon I gave you? He's putting a piece of the bacon that I gave him inside my book about Rush and then closing it. Oh my God, this boy is hilarious. You are funny. You are a cute little funny man. Yes, eat the little bacons. There you go. Let's see. Marlon Martinez only appeared in 5 games with 75 total offensive snaps. I understand that's the best lineup that we have, those 5, with Zalance Hurd being the 6th. I understand. I'm not arguing about that at all. But when Marlon Martinez made such a huge move of loyalty to stay at LSU, I mean, you've got to find more playing time for him, I think. You got to reward that just a bit more, don't you think? I don't know. Especially if you want to keep that guy around for the next season, because he's definitely not going to buy that, hey, you're going to get playing time still type of. He's not going to buy that line again. And that's the thing is you've seen some guys who've stuck around and committed to LSU because they love LSU. That's really it. Dude, I can't even keep up with all the shit you throw. This is absolutely crazy. This little kid is just terrible with throwing stuff. Hey, no more. Like, you will never touch another DVD until you're like 15 after this, because you were just. He's like, do you work for like Spotify, just trying to kill physical media like DVDs? Like, trying to throw all these things, trying to destroy the discs. Like, this little guy is nuts. Hey, that's a bootleg. That's a bootleg CD. It says Led Zeppelin bootleg. You're not going to break that. You're not going to do that. I will not permit it. But anyway, you definitely need to go to the site. Go to our Who's Staying, Who's Going article, because we lay it all down right there. Who we're hearing, who we have gotten confirmation of. And then also a transfer portal watch list. Not as thorough as it could be. There's probably names that I just haven't dug into, guys who are going to want to hit the portal. But for pretty much 90% of the team, we've covered our bases with and have pretty much gotten the answers that we're looking for. And it's a crazy season. And I understand a lot of this involves people moving schools and doing a lot of things that they don't want to do, that they wish they hadn't had to do, stuff like that. I understand it. It's an upsetting time as well, because, this is the school that you were supposed to be playing at for a while, and now you're having to leave. Like, it can be rough. So I get all that, and I put the people first, not the breaking news. And so there's a lot of stories that sometimes we miss out on because we're not as soulless as some other people. Sometimes we're not perfect either. We love to do the work. We love to break news as well. But we try and understand that, there's a balance to things. Usually, if people want to know or people want to tell you, they will tell you. And so I try and I don't even know what I'm saying, but I'm just trying to say that with my method of breaking news, trying to lead in the LSU world as a LSU news guy, I understand there's layers to things. I definitely understand about being patient with a story. I mean, I recently broke one that made like 5-6 different outlets that I can think of, big time outlets that, I had to wait 6 months to break that story. I had to wait 6 months. So like, we understand what patience is about with that as well. And so there's a lot of times people don't want you to reveal things that they've told you. and we want to show people that we can be trusted with that. And so there's times we've just had to hold off on breaking news and stuff, or let someone else get the story if they get the story. You know, like it's when we say something, we're going to keep our word. And so we've had to bite the bullet on some stories, and that's okay, because really the relationships mean more than anything else. Because if you don't have people to laugh with, to go to dinner with, to talk with about all the goings on at LSU, a breaking news story doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean much. You know, like, people are going to forget who broke that news story usually. So like it doesn't really matter. I will never put one over the other. What's up? He's probably getting sick of me ranting, and you probably are as well. And I can tell that my face is. So, everybody, have a good one. Go Tigers. Sorry about the end rant there. It doesn't really even make sense what I was ranting about, but definitely check out the article we posted in the comments section. That is an article that will have far more information than we gave you right here, right now, even though we did unload a lot. Thank you very much for watching, everybody. Have a good night. Have a good weekend. We will probably go live again at some point this weekend. Just keep an eye out for news on when we will. Peace out, everybody.